Hey, welcome everyone to 1 Million Mind, where we talk about the latest deep tech, AI, crypto, and basically we are also learning the space. So we would love to. We like the concept of sharing everything and learning as we go, so that those who are starting in this field can follow along. So saying that, Balaji, Raghu, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Yeah,
Any
this week,
plans?
a lot of fun things going on Twitter Space with ChatGPT. So I like this topic.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Raghu. How is things in London?
Oh, Raghu, did you mute? Uh-oh.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah. No. Okay, start over again,
No, no,
or you are going to chop it
no, I
off.
said, it's been, no, I said it's snowing. It was snowing and it's freezing out there. So that's the things that are happening or not happening. So pretty much everybody is like hibernating at home and having some whiskeys. So
Perfect.
that's
Yeah,
what it
we don't use the snow as an excuse to do whiskeys, but we are in Texas
is.
and California, get snow, so it's perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm excited about today's topic. So I've been deep diving for the last couple of weeks into this topic, Chat GPT. I know you see it everywhere on Twitter, but I think I wanted to start it from a place of a beginner. What in the world is this? Because I was trying to explain to my wife, but then I stopped. I said, you know what? Just watch our episode tomorrow because that's what we're gonna do. So basically, I want to go with the concept of everybody's talking about it, what it is, what does it do, what does it not do, and where do we see some of the applications for this. So that's really what I want to focus on this video. So so to me, right, a lot of changes have been happening in the last. I mean, OpenAI has released GPT-3 about a year ago, but then there's new versions coming up. I think we now 3.5 and Chat GPT is built on top of it. So I just want to show a demo of what that is for people who've never seen it, and I kind of built some things on it. So I wanted you guys to see it and get your feedback. And then so if you guys haven't seen it, that's what I want to start. And also want to talk about. I'm going to start sharing with what is going on with ChatGPT, right? So it's an artificial intelligence chatbot that's built on top of Open AI 3.5. So one thing I want to really highlight is,
Do you want to go
so if
full
you guys
screen,
can see
Rajni?
it, oh yeah, let me do that. Okay,
There
is
you
that
go.
better?
Yeah.
Perfect. So one thing I want to highlight is just the amount of, you can call it hype, you can call it excitement, I'll call it adoption, right? How many people are signing up for ChatGPT? So if you look at it, Netflix took about a 3.5 years to get to a million users. iPhone about 74 days. ChatGPT is taking 5 days, right?
Crazy.
So
Yeah.
I mean, to get a million users on any product in 5 days, that's just incredible, right? So to me, just from product adoption has been crazy. And so what is ChatGPT? The baseline is GPT. This just makes a just like you were talking on WhatsApp or somewhere, a chat interface that helps you ask questions to the GPT model, right? And it is built on data from until 2021. All the data in the internet has been consumed by this model. So you can ask questions. So there's no original thinking. So let's just start that. There's no original innovative ideas that are ChatGPT spitting out. But if you were like we did in the exams, if you could read a book and you can answer questions from that, just ChatGPT just a much better job of that. And it's basically there's the engine is a pattern recognition thing engine, and it basically based on the question you ask, it has all this information about. Let's say you want to build a Python program. There are hundreds and millions of Python programs, so it'll get information from that and build something for you. So if it already exists pre 2021, it'll answer it. You can ask for, hey, what's going on in currently in politics or sports. It's just not a good. There's not information for that, and for prediction. Even if you was to predict something, you'll go back into blogs and things that people have written, and then use that come up with, hey, this is what I predict is going to be the future. So anyway, it's just a very cool chat interface that you can get any information from the internet till 21. So I'll pause there. Do you guys have any thing to add to it? Have you had a chance to, at least read about it or, play with it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think when the news came out, I think we all had the OpenAI account, so I logged in and I was playing with it. My initial impression was it's going to cut down a lot of research effort, right? Like I think if you have everything in a concise form, like you can carry out a conversation with this system. Why do I need to go to Google, punch it in, take 10 lines and 10 links and scrape the thing for more? I mean, this gives this kind of gives everything in a very concise fashion, right? But granted, Google has very specific information about you. So I don't think ChatGPT is going to win there. If you ask, hey, what should I gift my wife? It's not going to. Google is probably going to be more accurate than ChatGPT, is my opinion. But Raghu, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I also opened an account and then played around with it. So as you said, it seems very, uh, um, like, I mean, at the offset, it seems very life changing, to be honest with you. But having said that, we'll see how much data it's going to collect in the next few years going forward. And also, I think they're going to charge about $18 per user.
Oh wow,
Sorry.
when did they decide that? I didn't see that one.
Eventually, that's what they're going to. That's the grapevine that's floating around. So I could be wrong, but obviously they're going to somewhere along the line they're going to monetize it. So that's going to be quite interesting. But, as Rajni was saying, the lot of research that you do can be quickly, you put in a concise form. Say, for instance, a lot of people have doubts in jargons, and you can quickly go there and ask things like, say, for instance, if you're into say econometric modeling using either statistics or machines, right, quantitative modeling, and you say, what's the difference between a multivariate time series and a multidimensional time series, for instance? They all sound similar, but there are some certain technical aspects which are quite different, and so on and so forth. So if you go to Google, which I often do, and you obviously get confounded with so much of optionalities out there, and then you generally stray along your path. But this is more precise. You know what I mean? Like, it just gives you a concise information. Well, it's up to you whether you're going to take it at face value or not. But hopefully, most of what it says could be true. So
that's another thing. Yeah, most of what it says could be true. Maybe it's factual. Maybe it's made up.
I want to definitely touch upon that, but I also want to talk through some of the use cases, right? So I was going through this and I want to show some of the examples, but so what can it do? Well, you can produce paragraphs of solidly written, whether it's English, other languages, right? So it's a high degree of sophistication. You can't tell that it was written by AI, and it has an incredibly capacity. So basically, there's a lot of implications on, for example, if you were in the marketing and you were customer service, right? Imagine having all of the knowledge exchange being consumed by this model, and then you can ask any questions instead of having to reference multiple books or subject matter experts. So you can almost, I feel like a rookie can perform at a senior level when it comes to customer service, communications, and then just some of the modeling, any kind of written things that we want to do for marketing or your website or Twitter posts. All this gets a lot more easier to do. So I was going down the path of, okay, if all this gets easier too, what, not too much concern about what role is going to replace versus what are some of the new opportunities, right? So I want to show one thing, but before that, just one thing that just was no brainer is if you had an email. Let me see if I can open that one. Okay, I'm going to open this and start sharing this one. So if you had an email, this is it. Okay. And I'm going to tell me if you guys can see the video, right? So this is an email that you get, okay? And then you can basically say, I want to be respectful, I'm annoyed with this email, and then you hit write. And it basically takes some context of these, what is in the email, and types it for you. So just watch this.
Just thinking. All right, there you go.
So I mean, I was mind blown. So there's other one that says a positive, negative. So if you don't like it, you're not interested in something people are selling to you, you can basically just say I'm not interested, or negative. There's a couple of companies doing this, but it's just crazy how much. Let's share this. Okay,
So,
that's
so you're
basically
saying
being able
people
to.
are not going to write emails anymore? Just use the virtual assistant to write emails.
So you don't have to write every email. Is basically what it translates to, right? It's not like you're not going to write emails, but if you get 100 emails a day, I'm going to say 80% of them can be with one-click response. Maybe the remaining 20, you will have to, put some thought into it, or at least have a draft ready, and then you don't have to think about where do I start, right? You have something ready, and then you can edit it, clean it up, add to it, and send it.
This
So
is
it's
this is
almost
going
like
to
having
be
this.
this is going to be a burden on the email system. Usually, I respond back with a yes, no, or two words, and that's it. Right now, it's paragraphs and paragraphs of explanation. This is going to be fun. We'll see what happens.
I
I'm
also
pretty sure
think,
there's. Good.
sorry, I also think there could be some legal implications to it, right? I mean, if somebody gets offended, or if something racist comes upon. I mean, obviously, I think you guys would have seen on the Twitter, you were on LinkedIn, that ChatGPT was quite racist in terms of somebody was asking, show me something, who could be successful. It says a male, Caucasian white male with certain degrees are bound to be more successful than the other races. And obviously, somebody took offense of it. So an email assistant like this could perhaps come under certain legal scanners, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah, you
know. I'm
cannot
just
you cannot
idea.
blindly do it. It's like the
Yeah.
person driving Tesla with his hands off the wheels and watching a movie, and a head got
It's
chopped
not
off
fully,
at a railway
yeah.
railway whatever the thing, right? Yeah, things like
So it
that
won't
happen.
be a fully self-driven. Maybe GPT-4 will change it, right? But the bottom line is it'll almost be like a human in the loop, where you use 20% of the effort you did before to make the same thing happen. So, uh,
Oh,
so
it's
we
very
can
useful.
call
I
it.
mean, the thought is very useful. There are definitely cases where you want to put together a well put together email for some business thing, right? So yeah, absolutely. Why not? Cuts down your
So,
work.
so these two are like two things I was playing around with. Rapid, same concept, just a different interface as far as how do you respond positively, negatively, concise, long form. So you had some options, but mostly comes out, and then you quickly review it, you send it out. Or if it's somebody who you want to stop pestering you on LinkedIn, you can just, I don't think how much, maybe to your point, it doesn't have to come across as unprofessional, but at the end of the day, there are some emails that I see value in it, right? Mostly I don't respond to emails from most people unless I know them, right? So, and then I think the other thing is summarizing this too. So imagine you get a lot of newsletters, you don't have time to read all those newsletters. They are things that can summarize and say, hey, these are the 3 bullet points from this. So you like it, you can read more, or you say, okay, I'm done, right? So I see a lot
Right.
of value just from email management. Again, it's something we do on a daily basis. Imagine just getting better at it. So similar to that, Tweet PT3, which is basically a thing that can help you write tweets. So because if you're an influencer or somebody who has a newsletter, then you need to stay on top of your Twitter game and have something going maybe 4 or 5 times a day. Imagine a feature like this that can help you create quote unquote original tweets that you mess with it a little bit, or you tweak it to a point where it automatically posts, right? So those are some of the cool things I saw. Another one is the Avatar. This is a Korean. So basically, I'm gonna share this. It's a portal
Public.
where
Okay.
you basically use English to Korean, and you can do it through audio, you can do it through text, basically chat. So because I was looking at one for Tamil, right, for my daughter to learn. So something like this, where it's more interactive, and they can learn on their time rather than a time where you say, hey, every Saturday at 9 a.m. you have to sit down in front of a thing for 9, or sit down with me for an hour. This just, I say, if they can do 30 minutes a day, whichever time of the day they figure out to do it, the more exposure, the more conversation that you are having with the native speaker at the level you are, so that you can kind of build up to a more higher level of whatever language you're trying to learn,
So,
right?
so Rajni, what
So,
are we looking at? This Ava talk that AI, I don't understand what I'm looking at. So what am I
so
looking at?
this is actually a Korean AI English tutor. So if you are if you just know Korean and you want to learn how to use that in the words in English, then um, this particular website will help you get there. So I know it's mostly the Korean is the first thing that they learned how to check your if you do in English, and then check your grammatical errors. You can have a open-ended dialogue using audio. Basically, it's a chatbot that helps you learn a language. That's
Is
what
it
it's trying
is
to
it
do.
more like the Grammarly except for a different language? Like you can
It's like
convert
almost like Duolingo, right? So it's similar to
Duolingo.
that,
Okay.
but
Interesting, actually,
Duolingo
because I've
has,
been. Sorry.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I've actually I downloaded Duolingo about 10 days ago, and I've been like trying to learn about 3 or 4 languages. So a couple of them I know from many years back, but I'd forgotten. But this seems to be, I think this has got a lot more power, I would say, because in Duolingo, what happens is it gives you complicated sentences, and then going forward, suddenly it goes back and takes you back to something much simpler. So there's a bit of I would say, incoherence, if you may, right, in terms of the teaching. But probably this might kind of bridge that gap. I don't know, depending on your skill set.
If you see like from a video game analogy, right? There's some games which have a very you only can go this direction, you can't go this direction, you have to kind of follow a set pattern. That's what I put Duolingo. This is more like an open environment. You can go interact with anything you want, right? So that's how I would phrase this, because now there's not a set path for you to go. You go whichever direction, the chat bot will keep up with you to kind of continue the journey for you. So that's how I look
Hmm.
at it. So to
Interesting.
me, it's a and one of the other one that I liked was this. So I haven't started. I didn't get an account for it, but basically, this is one of the concepts I think we talked about here is having your own mentor, right? Like what will happen if everybody has an own personal mentor? So if you are in technology, you have a technology mentor. If you're looking to build some people skills or people questions, if you have science questions, if you have art questions, if you just are looking for information, so you're looking for career use, insight for ideas, building up skills. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just depending on who you are and where you want to go in your career and which vertical you're interested in, there's a separate, like I think we talked about character.ai, right? So imagine a
Right.
specific character or a specific coach for whatever you're looking for to help you kind of guide you through your career. You have like a coach in your pocket. So I just thought that was amazing that this is possible.
Yeah,
So
this
these
is
are some of the
so is this going to be like a vertical, right? So you take the generalized model and now you're trying to tune it for specific cases. Okay.
correct. And the last one is personal. Yeah, I guess that's unschooler what I just showed you. So anyway, there's a lot of really cool use cases that, and I want to show you one that I did. But let me just show that, and then maybe I'll get you guys some initial reactions. So I want to also show what is this chat interface look like. So what I did was I just said, hey, my kids watch do
Can you
Minecraft, right?
zoom
My
that
daughters are.
in a little bit? Like
Oh, let me get a little deeper. Is it better?
yeah, readable.
So my kids are big into Minecraft. So and my kids actually wrote a book and about Minecraft, about being trapped in a game. So this is and then what they did was my daughter writes, and my son and my daughters kind of read it out like an audio book on YouTube, and they had a business competition where they sold the book for like
Oh,
$5 or
nice.
$2, right? So anyway, that's the first thing. Then okay, if you're going to write a story, I said okay, the same concept. Let me ask it, and of course, it spit out this story in about 5-10 seconds, so we can play around with see other things. So that's what happened, right? So this is cool that it wrote the story, but then I got access to a beta version of this software. It's called oh, it's called 11 Labs. Basically, they have a speech synthesis. So what I did was, okay, I said, okay, I'm going to create a story. I'm going to post it here. And then you have a choice of
Characters that
different
read. Oh,
characters,
okay.
right? What I did was I uploaded some of my YouTube audio to this, okay? And then I said, okay, I want you to read the story like who's hoping that it sounds like I was reading it. Okay, so I'm gonna play this for you guys. See if you can hear it. Okay.
Sure. Here's a story of a kid trapped in a Minecraft game. It was a typical Saturday afternoon, and 10-year-old
Oh,
Alex was
cool.
spending
That's your
at a
voice.
friend's house. They were both huge fans of
And you didn't
Minecraft and
read
spent
this.
hours on it
It
and
came up
building
with
I
it.
did
their
not
own
read it.
virtual world.
I did not
As
read
they
it. I just
played,
copied
This is
and
sweet.
pasted it.
Alex suddenly realized
Isn't that
that he
crazy?
couldn't seem to log out of the game. No matter how many times he tried to exit, the screen just stayed frozen on the Minecraft loading screen. Panicked,
So anyway, I'll pause there. But what I was going, I told, okay, I said I
Hey,
was
this
so
is a
excited.
great use case. Then just on a jovial note, then the fathers and mothers no need to read nighttime stories for the kids. just
Right?
record your voice and train something, and it'll read it. And then the kid is like, "Can we go at it again?" And yeah, sure, one more time, then one more
You
time.
can read it as many times. So this, I only loaded one. So basically, you can customize your voice by adding up
How
to.
did you train it? How did you train it?
So that's what I'm saying, right? Your voice lab. Where's my voice lab? It doesn't even show my load. Okay, I know why it's not show my lab, but anyway, you can upload. Okay, it must have one. Oh, there you go. So this is my. I loaded. I just want to show you, right? I loaded like one 10 MB segment of my voice. You can load up to 50. So the more you load, the more closer it will get to the voice that you're trying to recreate. It doesn't have to be your voice, it could be anybody's voice. All you need is MP3s of them talking, small snippets of 10 MB, and you can load it, and then that's your custom voice. And then see, I
Oh,
loaded it, right? And then I went into wherever this. I basically now let's go ChatGPT, and I can say, hey, write something about ChatGPT. Um, what are the pros and cons? It'll come out here. I can copy and paste it here, use my voice, generate it, and then it'll look. I did the whole research. I'm doing the whole speaking as my podcast. So I was
This is
like,
sweet. I think this is where the real power comes in, right? When you layer technologies one on top of another, like create a pipeline, right? I think this becomes really
yeah,
powerful.
I wanted to see your reaction. That's why I didn't show you. Like when I saw that, I was like smiling the whole time, right? So I said, okay, maybe I'm just imagining this.
It
So I called my
sounds
wife.
exactly like you. Exactly like you. It's pretty good.
So I called my wife. She was there. I said, hey, can you come here? She's like, you hear this? She's like, yeah. She was not very impressed, right? Like it sounds, oh, that's you. What are you doing? I said, I'm reading a story. She's like, yeah, I can hear you reading story. Then I stopped her and told her it wasn't me, and she was like, oh my god. And she's like, this is scary. So you're gonna
Scary.
recreate anybody's voice? That's what her head went. I was just
That's the
happy
initial
that yeah,
that's a deep
it
fake.
was great.
Yeah, it's like half
deep
deep
fake.
fake already.
Yeah, exactly. I think it sounds exactly like you, and unless you know the nuances here and there where you can pick the difference, it's very tough for anyone, right? So
Yeah. When I
crazy.
listened to the whole thing, I 90% there, I was the same accent. So again, it was very monotonous, right? So there's no like voice modification modulation, which I think will come because they have new models adding. You want to read this as a happy tone, you want to read it sad, you want to read it with a funny thing. So they're adding more layers to it. But just the initial thing blew me away. And oh my God, this is possible. And to your point, there, reading stories to kids is one use case, right? But being able to create that's might or might not be even yours, and being able to read in your voice, and then you maybe edit it for your podcast. So to me, it's
Yeah,
limitless as far
literally.
as what.
You can come up with
Yeah,
millions of stories, and you're the smartest dad who can read any story. Yeah, this is crazy, right? You can come up with any variation all day, and it reads it in your voice. That's a nice
yeah,
application. I think kids would love it.
yeah. So and it
Imagine
can be
someone has Hitler's. Someone has got the access to Hitler's voice, and he he tries to. Yes, something is.
we can use I can just download a few of his MP3s and make the whole thing deal. I don't know what the rules around it are, but the bottom line is I was just thinking from my own use. I just felt like it was amazing use case. So now I want to jump into some of the drawbacks, right? So I know you sent some in our chat on some of the things that it could go wrong. So we can actually try it right now if you want to. But the bottom line is, if you do mathematics or if you ask for some things, this is again reciting from a pool of knowledge that the model has, right? So sometimes it is so convincingly wrong. What I mean by that is, it is so wrong, but it has facts, quote unquote, to back it up, and references that are completely made up to be able to kind of support it. So when you look at it, you're like, oh my god, this is okay. This is great because it has references. It has to be accurate. When you click on it, those references don't even exist. So the bottom line is, creating content that sounds convincingly accurate is a con, right? But what I'm saying is, people will be, if you post this and somebody knowledgeable posts this, or if you see so many times, then you start believing it. So and then that's a reason that Buffer Overflow or Stack Overflow, sorry, they actually have banned anything to the Chat GPT. What happens is,
Right.
uh, it is a good forum where more senior developers are helping people, they're answering questions, so that the whole value is in the conversation. But imagine I go and say, hey, use Python to create something, and it comes up with it, we don't know is right or wrong, people posting crappy answers to everything, then it basically takes the whole value out of this whole ecosystem away. So they completely banned it because they want to keep the a high validity, valid answers in the ecosystem. So that's what, it's not there yet. So we need to be all careful about, hey, not just, it feels like magic, but it is not accurate. So we have to go in with that assumption that it is not accurate. So we talked about what happens now, right? Like we joked about homework. Now kids can write an essay for history within 5 seconds, right? They don't have to ever touch a book. But is it accurate or not? That's where the actual value will come in. Content is going to be free. The real skill will be in verifying and editing it to make it more presentable, right? So we are still doing that. Even now, there's a lot of fake news everywhere. So we are actually doing that right now. We get bombarded with content, and we make sure we are verifying it, or we should be verifying it, and I'm putting some truth around it to consume it. But if you're not doing it, then you're just gonna go astray, right? So those are some of the skills that the future kids, and I think on they had a conversation around it, saying, okay, in the future, what if schools make because AI is going to write some of these wrote essays and stuff, right? There's not really a lot of value providing. Thousands of people have already written these essays, but can you bring that in, validate it? The validating and the editing part is where you're going to get graded for, not the repetition, right? So those are some of the interesting drawbacks and some of the what I can see the space going. So I'll stop. Do you guys have any feedback on that or any thoughts on this?
On the pro side, I think again due to profession, right? So on software, and I think one of the useful use cases I thought was for test case writing, because it's pure combination, mix and match of things. I think someone posted, and it was very interesting thought, right? So you can give it little hint as to what test case you're trying to write, and it comes up with all the combinations. Like for example, here's a login screen, or I mean, they write a bunch of base description, and you can have the chat GPT come up with scenario one, scenario two. This is pretty much what any tester QA engineer does. It sits there and comes up with all these combinations, right? And I think that's all going to be soon immediately redundant. And I think it's gonna do a pretty decent job at it because it's just combinations of things, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it can take hours out of QA test cycles. And we all know, like the QA engineers, and most of the time is spent writing these test cases rather than testing in the initial stages, right? But those time can be handed back to actual testing job rather than writing these cases. So yeah, I agree with the drawback side of things, right? It's just is the school going to become obsolete, and people are just taking information from the past and trying to come up with something new? You don't need to learn anything. Everything is there. You just need to know how to ask a question, right? As long as you know how to ask a question, the answer is there, right? So why do you need to learn anything? That's that's the immediate question after all this, right? If something has taken years of information and is providing a very a concise and precise way of explaining it, you don't need to go learn it. So can we as a human race now, yeah, can we spend our time doing something else? I don't know what that is, but maybe not school, right?
Analogy is like a calculator, right? Before calculators came along, everybody had to do all calculations manually. Now a calculator comes along and you just skipped 80% of manual work. So to me,
Right.
that's how I feel this will be. Is it won't get you 100% there. It doesn't have to, but if you can get you 80% there and you kind of add your own flavor to it, that'd be great. And a lot of I'm hoping this changes curriculum, to your point, right? Because mostly what I did, remember, in chemical engineering is a lot of memorizing and repeating, right? Do we go from that, pivoted to more you know application concepts rather than just
Right.
remembering, which you do. Everybody can access any concept in the entire world just with a phone at this point. So do you, or even if you know how to use WhatsApp or a chat, you can get the answers, right? So if you that's easily available to you, then do you really just focus on applications and more on the creative side? It's interesting how, I don't know how this is going to all go, but it
We'll
opens
see.
up a
Yeah.
bunch of new. Yeah.
Yeah, and lastly, I think I just want to add that Stack Overflow issue. I think I agree and disagree to some extent on the approach, right? So I think, like you showed, the second tier are layering one with next. So what if the code that it comes up with is put through a bunch of test cases before it's presented, right? And that's what humans do. They come up with some random combination of things and they write and syntax check and then test it. And then, okay, now I verified it and I post it to Stack Overflow so everybody can consume. So basically, it goes on the trust that this person, somebody verified it and it works for them, so it has to work for me. But all of that can be done automatically now. If you can, in theory, you can ask the Chat GPT to come up with a code, and you can pipe it to a sandbox or a virtual machine that'll run it with a set of test inputs. And if it produces the output, why do you care what's in the code? Right? If you do a black box test and you give it a bunch of inputs and you expect that output, and if the code does good, then you take it and run with it. So I think the second tier is not ready yet, probably. So it's worth blocking it. But as soon as the second tier comes up, there is no Stack Overflow, right? There's something else now. So
Agree. It's interesting you bring that up. That was one of the things I want to talk about is, so the way this model is getting better is exactly the way you described it, right? There's one that's creating and another AI basically validating. What I mean by that is answers coming out, people are reading it and giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down, right?
Right.
So now it knows this particular algorithm worked better. So it kind of reinforces that these, okay, 20 people said it was yes, one person said no. So, okay, this is a pretty good answer. So now let's kind of build this model or give the feedback back to the first one that created this to build more along the ones that are approved. Just like you said, right? Somebody is creating it and another oversight AI or a person, a human in the loop right now are validating it. Eventually, as it gets better, that is going to happen is from a person outside, we don't see it. We'll give it and it gives you amazing output. But these are the steps you have to go through to get there. And I think when we get into GPT-4, which apparently is 1,000 times better than this, I can't even figure out how much our mind's going to get blown at that point, right? Like everything. So those are the so I want to talk about that next. Is we can definitely want to go through some of this, but so
before that,
GPT-4 is going
Raghu.
to get.
Yeah, well, before that,
Go
let's see
ahead.
Raghu, what do you have? Your thoughts on this whole thing?
On the no, I
On
think
the pros
look, I
and
think
cons and the way it's shaping up, right, in general.
it's gonna change things. I'm telling you seriously, because I think because as you guys were saying already, it's too early at the moment, and it's got, well, whatever it has scraped so much so far. It's kind of reacting based on that. As you accumulate more and more knowledge, then obviously it's going to be a lot more trustable and dependable, I think. So it would change a few. It would change the career paths of a few people, as you say. A lot of jobs might roll eventually. The flip side of it, again, I feel, as you guys were saying, I mean, most of this has already been talked about, is people losing originality, right, in terms of thinking and all that sort of things, like kids especially. Even I just forwarded you on WhatsApp my my son, who's in year 10, one of his classmates was learning some English writing using ChatGPT, and so well, whether he so at the end of the day, when it comes to creative thing, how much of what kind of barriers will be crossed over in creative license, especially like if you, as Rajni was saying, if I can uh, give some ideas on a story, and then if it can create a story, say 300 pages by itself, and then it can also talk about it, then do I really own the story, or is it like is the computer owning it? So you see what I'm saying. So where does the credit lie? So those are my concerns that I have in terms of this. But having said that, yeah, I think it's eventually going to make lives a lot more easier and probably even lazier.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of artists are up in arms now, even with the generative AI, right? It's like it's leaving signatures of some artists in the generated image, and they're like, "That's mine. You came up with it from my image, right?" So who gets credit? I think the human
We have a
race
lot of things
eventually.
flying out. Sure. Yeah. It's going so fast, right, that we are kind of trying to keep up with it. But just like crypto, everything else, I think the laws and organization around will catch up in a couple of years. But this is just blazing a path forward, right? Things are not going to be the same. It feels, again, everything gets hyped when it first comes out, but this actually feels like something that is going to change a lot of things, not the entire human life, but it's going to change a lot of things. Our careers, our what we consider as education. How much do we need to read? For example, I remember memorizing capitals of all states and countries. And like, why do we do that, right? Doesn't even
When
make
we're
sense
kids, yeah, I
anymore.
know.
So
It's building the
memorize.
memory power.
I don't know. Why did I do that? And now everything is like less than a second away. You don't. So yes, it does make us lazy. It was fun doing that, but I think we could have used our brain power for something a little bit more useful at this point, right? So that's what I'm saying is that was normal then. If I tell my kids to do that, doesn't make sense. Imagine what the future generation will consider normal. I don't think we even can wrap our head around it. So, but it's moving fast. So I will be just. So I'm trying to just at least stay in touch with what is happening. So what are some of the opportunities it opens up, right? Because I was thinking through like for example, astrology is a big thing in most cultures. I'm surprised to hear too. But imagine being able to use the pool of knowledge we already have and being able to do a interface that you can talk on a daily basis to understand your daily horoscope. What do you need to wear? I'm thinking about. So that's one of the app I would love to for us to get our hands dirty and create something like that using this if it's a possibility. So there's some of the what I'll consider niche applications that is not mind blowing, but this platform presents a better opportunity to make it a little bit more interactive, right?
Yeah.
We can even have a blockchain around it, I think. I don't know. I'm just thinking like, you have a blockchain kind of application on ChatGPT where you validate the answers, and then, you basically, as you were saying, thumbs up, thumbs down, that sort of thing, and then create a economy around it. I don't know. It sounds like an interesting application to spin around ChatGPT.
Yeah. So that's the other thing, right? So now I'm not 100%. These are things I want to research more, right? Okay, you create an application on top of uh, 3.5, right? GPT 3.5. Now 4 is coming out. Or 5 might come out in sometime in the future. So do you have to like scrap it, or can you actually have it like a back end you can reuse like now? Okay, from 3 to 4 is more powerful, but I'm using the same app with a little bit of changes. Or do I have to like rebuild the app? And again, chat GPT can help you rebuild the app. The bottom line is how easy is it going to be? For example, I was trying to create something now, right? So do I wait for Chat GPT? I keep saying GPT-4 to release the app, or can I build it now? It won't be throwaway, and it just gets better as more of the underlying GPT platform gets better. So I'm just curious how that's going to play out.
Well, I thought they had APIs. Hopefully, they have standardized APIs. So whatever engine is
Yeah,
behind it,
but I'm saying
should matter.
you will have APIs, right? But what I'm saying is, let's say you could do 20. I'll just keep it simple, right? This API has only capability of responding with this many parameters in 3. In 4, you might have 20 parameters. Your app wasn't built to handle 20. Do you prioritize? You know what I'm saying? Like those are the kind of things I'm thinking about. How do we leverage a 1,000 times more powerful tool? I'll just stick with the same, something to like we were creating an audio version of it. Maybe now you can create a video version of any written words, but also like as simple as a horoscope, right? What if it can go back? I don't even know where it'll go, but the bottom line is if you create an app, I want to see if there's a probability of just portability between different versions. So I'm going to try to dig a little bit deeper on that one. And the other big news, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this, is there's a lot of energy consumption, a lot of computing consumption. So that's why now they're free. At some point, we have to pay for it. But this fusion ignition that just was successful 2 days ago is basically now what it means is you get more energy out of the process than you put in it. That's really what that Q greater than 1.5. So far, it's always been, we haven't been successful where we put more energy and it's always been less that came out of the process. It's the first time officially we've actually been able to create energy. I'm pretty sure we're 10 years away from this being practical. But imagine if this happens, then we don't have to worry about where energy is from, nuclear. Right. We become price of energy drops to almost zero. What does that change? It changes our things we worried about the environment, changes so many different structures for how are we gonna worry about our electricity, our just a big expense for all businesses, especially in this space, is energy consumption, right? Imagine that going to zero. So I know we talked a little bit about it when we said, okay, solar energy is a renewable. Everybody's house, if they get solar panels, then basically that also drops the energy per kilowatt cost. But I'm just saying 10 years, do we even worry about any of that? So I'm very excited about some of these things happening. There's a lot of negative, but this is cool that some of the things that are happening in this space.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of things. Even I don't know if you guys recently, along with the nuclear fusion, came the news about the CRISPR, curing a teenage boy of cancer. So that was like amazing stuff, right? I mean, that's the other thing. Probably because you mentioned energy, and then obviously for CRISPR, probably they need a lot of energy in terms of, finding the permutations and combinations of all the genes and genomic sequences, so to speak. So that's very interesting too. Yeah, maybe interstellar travel. Yeah, Elon will be going to Mars very soon if that comes through.
I mean, the other big one I didn't make note of it is just the what is it called? Elite? I forget the name, but I think you guys have seen the video of where babies were being made externally, where you determine the genetics of the baby, how smart, what height, what characteristics. You basically are building a.
I remember
Matrix and Wiki Donor combined together. I thought
there's a movie called Gattaca. Probably that's what it is. Gattaca is a movie, if you remember, basically where there will be a civilization where you can tweak your genomics to create offsprings, right? And there will be certain people who can only be astronauts and others cannot be because their genetic sequence is not fit for that type of.
And you can remove any.
And then the next tier of discrimination begins, right? On the genomic. Exactly. It's not the color, it's not the race, it's the genomic sequence.
X-Men invented.
So it's crazy, right? What all the possibilities is mind blowing. We've seen it in science fiction movies, but this is reality now. It's crazy how
Jekyll and Hyde.
So anyway, I'm glad we're talking about this. This is exciting to me, as you can tell. But I think we should continue to bring new ideas that come in. It feels like it's happening. Something new is happening every day. So I'm glad we at least have a pause every 2 weeks to kind of catch up. So I'd love for us to do a little bit of a recap of what we saw in 22. It was mind blowing. Maybe put you guys on the spot on some of the predictions that you see for 23. And then next year, I want to get our hands dirty in creating some things on the live so that we can show people how easy it is. Because you have an idea, ideas are going to get even more cheaper It will be all about execution, and almost always the person with the best distribution is going to win. Because, like for example, we talked about this earlier too. Might have a great idea. All the big companies will just wait for it to be proven out, and then they'll build the same model, and they have the distribution channel, and you'll get crushed, right? So there will be
Right.
things that will do well by itself, but they'll get acquired, but they'll be a lot more easier for people with higher distribution to kind of recreate some of these things. So I want to see how all that plays out. But
Oh, absolutely.
all right, guys,
Exciting stuff.
anything else
Yeah.
Okay.
anything else,
Right.
guys, before we wrap up?
Oh, nothing. I just want to say I enjoy these chats, and it's always fun and exciting to participate. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, I was mind blown last week when you showed the face moving, and this week for me was just hearing my own voice. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So anyway, I'm glad you guys got to share that. So not a lot of people are
Yeah.
gonna understand and appreciate it. So I'm glad you guys got to share that. So thank you guys, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks everybody for
Yep.
tuning in. I'll see
Thank
you
you
guys
very
soon.
much.
All right. Thank
Yes.
you.